Hi YouTube! In my last video I have showed you how to use timers in a Linux kernel module. And they work fine, but if you need high resolutions like timings under 100 milliseconds, you will get some problems using normal timers. For these high resolutions, you need to use high resolutions timers. And how to use them is the topic for today's video. So as you can see here, I'm connected to my Raspberry Pi over SSH, and here I am in my Linux driver tutorials folder. And here we have all the various modules I've already created in this series. So let me copy our first Hello World Linux kernel module and name it to 9 High Resolution Timer. So, and let me rename my module to my High Resulution Timer.c, and of course I have to adjust it in the makefile too. Okay, so let's open up the source code. Okay, and it's just a simple Hello World kernel module. And now I will change the description to a simple Linux kernel module using high resolution timers. Okay, and to use high resolution timers we have to add the include Linux hrtimer.h, and because I want a short approximation about time, I will include jiffies too here. Okay, so now I will add the timer as a global variable. Okay, struct, and the struct is just called hrtimer, and here I define my high resolution timer and I will give it the name my hrtimer. And here I will define a second global variable, which I will make an unsigned integer, which is 64 bits long, and I will call it start time because I want to measure the time between starting the timer and the end of the timer, or when the callback function is called. So the next step is to add a callback function, and it has to be from the type static enum high resolution timer restart, and we can give it a random name. I will pick test high resolution timer handler here, and the function needs one argument, which is a high resolution timer, or a pointer to a high resolution timer. Okay, get current time. So here I will create a second timestamp variable, and I will use the global variable jiffies, which counts the system ticks, my processor, and here I will print out start t minus now time, and here I will use the function jiffies to msecs to convert our jiffies to milliseconds. And here I will calculate the delta of now t and start time. Okay, and then I will return a high resolution timer no restart. If I would restart the timer, all I have to do is, instead of returning high resolution timer no restart, I would return high resolution restart. But I only want to start my timer once. Okay, so now we have to add the initialization of our high resolution timer. So to initialize our timer, we have to call the function High Resulution Timer init, and we pass a pointer to our timer and some additional arguments here. Okay, then we have to set the callback function, which in our case is called test high resolution timer handler. Yeah, and when our timer when our timer's time is reached, the function we specify here will be called. Now I will save the current time in the variable start time. Okay, and then I will start the timer. First argument is the timer I want to start. The second is the time to wait. And I have to use the function ms2ktime, and here I can write the desired time, I think in milliseconds here. You can use us2ktime for adding a value in milliseconds. And I will wait, well, let's say 100 milliseconds, which is a long time for a high resolution timer, but because we will use jiffies to get the time data, it's okay here. And then we need the arguments to define HR timer mode release your to. Okay. And now the last thing is I will, in my uninitialize method or function, I will call the function high resolution timer cancel for the case I remove my kernel module while the timer is still running, which is unlikely because this function will be called 100 milliseconds after loading it, but just in case I will use the cancel function, and if the timer has already expired, nothing will happen by calling this function. This won't make any harm also. Okay, now I'm done. Now let's try to compile our kernel module. Okay, I've got an error here. Yeah, of course it's my HR timer and not my timer. Let me check. Let me correct it here. And let's build the whole thing again. Okay, so now I will try to load our kernel module. Okay, looks good. Now I will check the kernel's log. And we see here after 100 milliseconds our time has expired and our high resolution timer works. And I will remove the kernel module by using rm remove module. Okay, so that's how to use high resolution timers in a Linux kernel module. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching and goodbye.